Thank you for being here. Thank you for having me. To everyone in Chainlink, it's an amazing event. Super happy. Will be very quick, short presentation. My name is Emilio. I am currently VP at Aave of engineering, and I was together with some other guys that are here in the plateau. I was like one of the guys that designed and developed the Aave protocol in all 3 iterations up to V3. And I was also participating in the design of the Go stablecoin that were released a couple of months ago. So what we are going to talk about today is stablecoins in DeFi, and specifically how do stablecoins keep stability around the target price, and what are the solutions that we are implementing for the Go stablecoin. Okay, so first question is, what actually is a stablecoin, right? Everyone here in the room probably knows what a stablecoin is. So if I ask a lot of people, if I ask what a stablecoin is, they will just tell it's a token pegged to the dollar, right? Which is not wrong by itself. But a more broad definition would be it's a digital asset that is essentially tracks the price of an underlying asset that can be from the real world, like dollars, but also gold, lead, whatever other index we want to use. Or it can also be another digital asset. For example, we have stable assets that track the price of Ethereum in DeFi, right? And they track this price through certain mechanism of generation, redemption, and stability of the price. So this is my personal way of thinking about stablecoins. I think we have 3 main categories. One is over-collateralized. The other one is centrally controlled, and the other one is algorithmic, right? Can we say algorithmic stablecoins? I get arrested. I don't know. But just jokes aside, over-collateralized stablecoins are what most of the current decentralized stablecoins use as a main design. So it's the design that was used by DAI, which was the first decentralized stablecoin used in DeFi, and it's also used by Go, by LUSD, CRVUSD, and so on and so forth, right? Centrally controlled stablecoins are, as the definition describes, are usually, they have a central entity behind, which actually tracks and keeps control of the redemption and generation mechanisms. So they keep reserves of the underlying asset, the real asset, and usually through this, they allow people to arbitrage the price on the network of the stablecoin. Typical example of this is Tether, USDC, and so on and so forth. Algorithmic, which is an interesting category of assets. Unfortunately, no stablecoin design that used an algorithmic approach has been successful until now. But the idea there is to use an algorithm to actually track the price in a completely synthetic way, so they don't use any collateral at all, whether decentralized or centralized. Typical example of this is UST and Luna, which exploded spectacularly last year, essentially, unfortunately, but an interesting experiment nevertheless, because I don't think that the space of experimentation is done there. So what mechanisms do stablecoins use to keep stability, right? So one thing is the generation and the redemption of a stablecoin. Another thing is the stability. So stability means attempting to track the price of the underlying asset as closely as possible. So I think there are 2 main categories of mechanisms. One is soft and one is hard. And the 2 categories I would differentiate based on how strong is the impact of the peg of the individual mechanism. So if in the soft peg category, I would put mechanisms and strategies that have an impact on the peg indirectly. Okay, so what happens is that when you change something in these mechanisms, the peg will be affected on a certain time frame, and with uncertainty, though, we don't know when and how the peg will be affected. So they will need to be adjusted over time to optimize the strategy, right? Typical examples of these are generation or redemption at a fixed price. I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but all the collateralized stablecoins use the same strategy. So all of them, they allow the generation and the redemption, which means repayments or liquidation, at a fixed price of $1. This automatically creates an arbitrage opportunity because when the price is below peg, there is interest for the borrowers to buy the stablecoin and repay their debt for a profit. When it's above the market price, there is an interest to generate more stablecoins and sell on the market to wait for a profit later, so to short the asset in general. And variable borrow rates is another soft mechanism. This is what is employed with different strategies by DAI, Go, CRVUSD, and others. And this is actually very interesting, is the redemption and generation fees that are used by LUSD. So for those of you who is not familiar with the liquidity design, they don't have interest rates. They have mechanisms to regulate incentivize or disincentivize borrowing and repayment by changing essentially the way the amount they charge when a user generates or redeems the stablecoin. So these are the soft mechanisms. What are the hard mechanisms? I think of two specifically. One is what we were talking about for Liquidity, the redemption mechanism. So Liquidity compared to other stablecoins has this mechanism where you can always redeem LUSD against the collateral of the least collateralized positions. So when a position is below a certain threshold, you are allowed to redeem $1 worth of collateral for 1 LUSD. So if LUSD is worth less, there is an arbitrage opportunity there. You can sell the collateral at a premium minus the redemption fee to actually be able to make a profit. So the redemption fee can be used to incentivize or disincentivize redemptions, and the same thing on the generation side. And in the case of DAI, Go, and CRVUSD with a slightly different mechanism, but the substance is the same, is that they have components within the protocol that allow usually to swap the stablecoin for another stablecoin with a stronger peg. So usually for an asset with a centralized control. You know, in the case of DAI, there is the PSM, where you can supply USDC and redeem for DAI, or and vice versa. Oh shit, sorry. So let's go forward. Borrow rates, which is what interests me the most in the context of this talk. We have two strategies currently. One is employed by DAI and Go and others, which is governance controlled. So the governance decides what the appropriate borrow rate for depending on a certain market condition is. Here we have a screenshot of one of proposal maker where they adjust the borrow rates. Here the borrow rates were going up, which probably means that DAI was tending to go below peg, so they raise the interest rates, or there might be risk implications. I don't remember the details of this proposal. While CRVUSD has an algorithmically controlled approach, where they use this formula. I'm not sure if you guys can see, but there is essentially a fixed component with a fixed base rate, and then there is a variable component which essentially determines what the market price is using another component. I will not go in detail, otherwise it will take hours here. Which is called peg keeper. So there is a fixed part and a variable part, and this automatically adjusts depending on the state of the market where this peg keeper operates. Okay? So what's wrong with governance controller rates? Because like we have been using governance controller rates for Go. Go has been launched like 2 months ago, so it's a baby, right? It's still growing, and we are trying to figure out what are the best strategies or what we can improve. to actually help Go scale. So what's wrong with governance control rates? Three things. They require modeling, so we need people behind that actually put the effort to understand what rates should be set. They are very slow in general, because they are slow, they react very slowly. There is a governance process that you need to apply to update the rates and so on and so on. And they are hard to estimate properly, because they are slow, it's likely that maybe you estimate something, and in the meantime, the market conditions change to a point where you cannot do, the changes that you want to apply are actually ineffective. So, okay, let's go algorithmics, right? But what do we want to have from algorithmic, from a Go perspective, this I'm talking about. So, we want the best trade-off between reaction times and predictability. Why? Because, like, for example, we employ algorithmically controlled interest rates in Aave, right? If you go to Aave and you try to borrow USDC, you will see that the interest rates fluctuate all the time. They go to 3%, like during the bull market, day was 3%, day was 60%, 50, 40, 20, like it can vary very quickly depending on the supply and demand, right? We don't want that with Go, because one of the reasons why Go was released was to actually allow Aave to have a product that is more stable and more predictable in terms of what borrowers are going to pay when borrowing, right? So we don't want another rate that is similar to what we already have in Aave. We want something more stable. So PIDs. PIDs are a way to control. They are very, very common in control theory, and they are usually used to control certain aspects of a system. It can be humidity, it can be temperature, it can be, I don't know, like the state of lighting, whatever. When there is a value that we want to track closely in a real-world scenario, we usually use PIDs, right? Very typical example that you probably use every day, the cruise control of the car. That's how it adapts depending on the friction of the road, the slope of the road, and so on and so forth. That's a PID. We'll go back quickly. So this looks scary and complicated. It is not. Like a PID is called like this because it's, I don't know if I put here the definition. Yeah. It has three components: one proportional, one integral, and one derivative, right? So what we do here is the error that we have against the peg, and we keep a track of the historical, and then we calculate the integral part and the derivative part. So it's not a novel idea. Like, there's been discussion in the Ethereum community about this for a long time, but actually it was never truly applied to stablecoins, which is what we actually want to do. The idea is to replace the current governance control strategy, of course. We want a certain degree of predictability, like I was mentioning before. And, of course, it should work together with other soft peg mechanisms that I mentioned before. So here are a small description of what the three components will help tracking in the interest rate mechanism. So the proportional component, it tracks the direct error. You know, so the direct error means that it will react very quickly as the error increases or decreases. The derivative component tracks the slope of the change of the error. So it kind of gives a predictability component to the system control, to the control system, where we are able to understand how the error is going to change, even if the current error is small. The integral component will help keeping track of like recurring errors, okay? So we have two possibilities. We can use on-chain Chainlink Oracle for historical data, or we'll probably use the GSM, or maybe a mix of the two. The current strategy is not yet defined. But what we want to do, and we are currently doing, is building a Python model. And then there will be the whole process in the governance discussion to actually have the finalized and working version. We are also analyzing with the data to understand the current, how we will need to set the parameters that I mentioned before. So that's it. 15 minutes, a very short time to talk about this topic. Probably need a couple of hours, but I would say that stability is a very complex topic, and we will need to try as much as possible to build automated strategies. And we will also need to focus on growth to try and create more, because the predictability and stability is easier if like connected together with growth and use cases for the stablecoin. So keep an eye on the governance forum, and this will be proposed very soon. Thank you, and that's it.